everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Shifty's 49ers Talk. In this video, we're going to be previewing the Week 3 matchup between the San Francisco 49ers and the Denver Broncos. This is going to be played on Sunday Night Football. The whole nation's going to be watching. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. Before we get into that, I do want to say a couple of other things that's been happening on the channel. Of course, I do my weekly show with 49ers Ultimate Report. We have our podcast, the Candlestick Report. I'm going to put links in the description for that. And then with my boy Niner Sickness, we are going to be doing a weekly recap show, simply called the 49ers Weekly Recap Show. I'm going to be posting that on the channel once a week as well. So a whole lot of content coming your way, guys. But let's not waste any more time. Let's jump right in. The first thing that I want to talk about in this preview is how the teams performed last week. Now, of course, we know the San Francisco 49ers won 27-7 over the Seattle Seahawks. A very, very impressive win, especially by the defense, but at a big cost. Of course, Trey Lance out for the year. However, in his place, Jimmy Garoppolo did play pretty darn well last Sunday, and we can obviously hope to continue that performance next week and through the rest of the year. Now, with the Denver Broncos, they themselves also got their first win of the season against the Houston Texans. That score 16-9. One of those games where, it looked like it was touch and go for a while with the Broncos. They ended up making a couple more plays than the Houston Texans, and they came away with a win, although not in very convincing fashion, against a team like the Houston Texans, who many consider probably a bottom 5 to bottom 10 team. So, that's how the teams are looking after last week. Both teams are 1-1 on the year, and this will be a really, really big game on Sunday to see who can move forward with a winning record between the 49ers and the Broncos. Let's now take a look at the statistical matchups between the teams. Now, with the Broncos, I was actually fairly surprised with how they are ranked statistically so far after 2 weeks, a lot higher than what I would have expected. But overall, here's the big kicker with the Denver Broncos, where I think the 49ers will have a huge advantage. So far, the 49ers much better with turnovers on the year. We are ranked 7th compared to them being 22nd. We have a positive 2 turnover ratio. They're -2. So after 2 weeks, that's not great for the Broncos, and it really favors the Niners, especially this is a defense that's going to get better and better and better. Some of the other things with the Broncos too, which really surprised me, was I knew their defense was good, didn't realize it was that good. Now, you could make the argument that based on the opponents they've played, that's maybe a contributing factor to their defensive rankings being so high. When you think about, the Seattle Seahawks, who the Niners just pitched a shutout against. The Niners defense gave up nothing to the Seattle Seahawks offense. And then the Houston Texans, who were definitely lacking a lot of star power. Plus, it remains to be seen, Davis Mills, is he really the guy in Houston? Or, but here's the thing. You do have to give credit where credit's due. And the Denver Broncos defense has been playing very, very well. They do have a ton of good players. And here's the thing, is another big factor too. Is Patrick Surtain II going to be playing in this game? I believe he did practice today, Thursday, so that's a really good sign for him moving forward that he could play in the Sunday Night Football game. Now, offensively, the Denver Broncos, a lot of yards, but their points per game is definitely struggling, and that has really been their biggest issue. Not being able to convert in the red zone, not being able to convert those long drives just into points. So the 49ers, notoriously defensively, play that bend, don't break defense, and we play it pretty darn well. So I look for the 49ers to maybe continue that trend of the Broncos. I'm sure with the guys like Russell Wilson and Cortland Sutton, Javonte Williams, so on and so forth, Denver's going to get some of their yards, but can we limit their points? That's going to be a big thing right there. Now, conversely, with the 49ers, you could argue, and the numbers would probably back it up, we have the best defense in the NFL, and that's not really a surprise to anyone, I don't think. Especially if you're a 49er fan, you know how much talent is on this defense. Now, offensively, of course, the numbers are a little bit skewed because the Niners have played both of their games in not so great weather games. Of course, you lose your starting quarterback in the first quarter of week 2. And then, that week 1 game against Chicago, the weather just got so bad that, the offensive rankings are definitely going to be a little bit skewed. But for the 49ers, we have our game plan in place. You know what we're going to try and do: run the ball, play action, take a couple of deep shots, and really just work those long sustained drives to play that ball control offense. Overall, statistically, you could argue that the Denvers are maybe better better statistically in terms of yards and everything, but points, I think I like the Niners here. And especially the other big factor, which I forgot to mention but want to bring up just before we move on to the next segment, is when we look at the penalties. After week 1, both of these teams were at the very top of the list with the most penalties. Broncos have actually kind of continued that trend. They have 25 penalties already. They are bottom of the NFL in terms of penalties. So that's a big thing where the Niners have definitely improved. A really bad week 1, but last week against the Seahawks, only 1 penalty for 26 yards. So if the Niners can continue that trend, being on the right side of the penalty battle, especially in these close games that we're going to expect against the Denver Broncos, I really do like the Niners' chances to come away with a win here. Let's now move on into the coaching matchups. And when we look at the 49ers offensively, of course, we are led by head coach Kyle Shanahan and his scheme. He will be going up against the Denver Broncos defensive coordinator, Ejiro Evero. Forgive me if I didn't pronounce that correctly. Now, Evero is someone who's been in the league for quite a long time, I believe about 10 to 15 years, but this is his first time being a defensive coordinator. So he will be coaching essentially his 3rd game as a defensive coordinator in the NFL. Of course, Kyle Shanahan has years and years and years of experience as a play caller, so you definitely have to give the advantage right here to the 49ers. The one positive that maybe Denver has is because they're defensive coordinators are relative unknown. There's really no trends that you can look to see what kind of plays he likes to call in certain situations. But overall, I think if the Niners are actually come out with a pretty aggressive game plan, it's going to be Jero there who's going to have to basically adjust to what the 49ers do. And I do expect, considering the lack of experience that the Broncos defensive coordinator has, that Kyle Shanahan's definitely going to throw in some trick plays here and there, some misdirection plays, because maybe the defense won't be ready for it. So you have to give the Niners the advantage here. Now, when we look at the other side of the ball then for each team, we have the 49ers' DeMeco Ryans, who I am a massive, massive fan of. I will be absolutely stunned if he is not a head coach somewhere else next year. And then he'll be going up against the Broncos' first-time head coach, Nathaniel Hackett, who was the offensive coordinator in Green Bay. Now, all reports out of Denver is that they're not really happy with Nathaniel Hackett. He definitely has made some questionable play calls in his 2 games so far as the offensive coach right there and head coach. Against week 1 against Seattle, opting for a 64-yard field goal compared to a 4th and 5 with your brand new franchise quarterback Russell Wilson. Little bit puzzling right there, and he just really looks a little bit out of his depth. I'll be honest, I'm not like a body language expert, but he definitely looks somewhat uncomfortable on the sidelines in Denver, a little bit overwhelmed possibly. So DeMeco Ryans is also going to throw in, maybe add a few wrinkles here and there to the defense, maybe a couple of blitzes, complex schemes in terms of like zone schemes, things of that nature. But I'll be really curious to see here. But overall, I think you have to, and even trying to be impartial here, you have to give the advantage to the 49ers when it comes to the coaching matchup. Let's now move on to the star matchups between the 49ers and the Denver Broncos. Now, when we talk about the 49ers offensively versus the Broncos defensively, I think let's start at the offensive tackles for the 49ers. Trent Williams, Mike McGlinchey going up against those very good edge rushers in Denver in Bradley Chubb and Randy Gregory. I'm always going to favor Trent Williams no matter what team we're up against, no matter who we're up against. But Mike McGlinchey, that's going to be a really key one right here. Can he hold up against Chubb and Gregory? Because they're going to be, I'm sure they're going to be mixing up blitz packages, keeping guys on each side. I'm sure McGlinchey will have to go up against Chubb a little bit, against Gregory a little bit. Can he hold his own over there? That's going to be a really big key, because we know, especially Garoppolo, not the most mobile guy, so he relies on a good, clean pocket. If McGlinchey can hold up, then I really do like the Niners' chances against this Broncos defense to at least limit what those pass rushers can do. Also, we have to factor in, we know that McGlinchey, very good run blocker, so if the Niners can have a consistent run game, it's really going to limit what those edge rushers can do for Denver. Now, moving on to the next matchup in terms of the star-studded matchups, Deebo Samuel versus Patrick Surtain II. Patrick Surtain seemingly, I think he's probable to play this game, so I think he will be out there. Deebo Samuel, we know that he has shown abilities to just do things that are almost inhuman. That crazy 50-yard run against Seattle, wow, that was impressive. And we know that Debo and Jimmy, they have a good chemistry, good relationship right there in terms of passing the football. Jimmy's not afraid to throw the ball to Debo Samuel in those tight windows. So I think we are going to definitely challenge those Denver DBs, especially Patrick Surtain. I don't think we're going to shy away from it whatsoever. When you have a great receiver like Debo Samuel, and of course, let's not forget to mention Brandon Ayuk, that you have to challenge in those one-on-one matchups. Don't be afraid to throw the football. Now, when we move on to the defensive side of the ball, a lot of different factors go in here, but I'm going to start off with Nick Bosa, of course, probably the best pass rusher in the league for the 49ers, against Garrett Bowles, the left tackle for the Denver Broncos. Now, Russell Wilson, definitely not as mobile as seemingly so far looking compared to what we've seen, and we've seen a lot of Russell Wilson over the years. So if Nick Bosa can consistently beat Garrett Bowles, then I do like the Niners' chances here a lot. Of course, Bosa's going to line up on either side of the defensive line, really going to attack the right tackle as well. Plus, with the 49ers, we have such a deep group of edge rushers that Garrett Bowles is going to have to face different types of guys, bigger guys, smaller guys, faster guys, quicker guys. We're going to throw everything and the kitchen sink at the Denver offensive line, really just to make Russell Wilson a little bit uncomfortable back there. Now, there's also a big matchup in terms of the 49ers cornerbacks against the Denver Broncos cornerbacks. So when we look at Emmanuel Mosley, Mooney Ward against Courtland Sutton, and possibly Jerry Jeudy, I think he's questionable for the game. You know, at the end of the day, I never wish injuries upon anyone, and I always like to go against the teams at their best. So I hope that Judy's going to be out there playing, not only for that, but for fantasy purposes too. But moving on, I think this is a really great matchup. And here's the thing, the 49ers have just had a really big-time matchup. When you look at elite receivers, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, you know, we know Lockett went over 100 yards, but that 100 yards really didn't affect the game, the outcome of the game all that much. So overall, I think you have to like the Niners' chances here. Mosley and Ward playing extremely good football, coupled with a very effective pass rush, and I think good things can happen. And you still have Russell Wilson trying to form that chemistry with Courtland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and so on. The offense for Denver definitely being able to move the ball somewhat, but not being able to punch it in. So I do like the 49ers matchup here. It's going to be really, really interesting to see how that one shakes out. Finally, when we look at these star matchups, it's going to be Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw against those Denver running backs, Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams. Both of those guys running the ball really, really well. Javonte Williams over 5 yards per carry, over 100 yards on the season, same as Melvin Gordon. Well, Melvin Gordon, I think it's about a 4.8 yards per carry, but overall he's been very, very effective with the Denver Broncos. That dual-headed back is just really, really good for the Denver Broncos. The Niners' running defense is going to have to be on its A game, so I'm really hoping Javon Kinlaw, Eric Armstead, Kevin Givens, Hassan Ridgeway in the middle can really, really do a good job freeing up the lanes for Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw to make those tackles. Both Gordon and Williams, very physical backs, able to break tackles, able to gain extra yards, so we have to be able to limit that if we're going to come away with a win against the Denver Broncos. All right, so let's move on to some of the keys for winning for the San Francisco 49ers. One of the first things that I'm going to look at is Jimmy Garoppolo needs to stay aggressive. One of my favorite things that he did in the game against Seattle was he was not afraid to throw the ball down the field to Brandon Ayuk, and that led to really, really good things. So if we look at it for a second, Jimmy Garoppolo threw it to Brandon Ayuk 3 times deep. 2 of them resulted in defensive pass interference calls, which normally as 49er fans, we're used to those going against us, but really good to see Jimmy be aggressive in that sense, and I really do hope that we can keep aggressive in this game. So we know Surtain and Debo, that's going to be a big-time matchup, but look for Ayuk as well to possibly have a big game. Jimmy needs to stay aggressive, take those shots down the field, keep the defense honest so they can't just crowd the box. I also look for us to maybe have 2, maybe even 3 deep passes to Danny Gray in this game, just again to push those safeties, push the linebackers back a little bit farther. Now overall too, when we look at the 49ers offense against the Denver defense, like what we mentioned in the star matchups, is that the 49ers have to contain the pass rushers. Well, how do they do that? Well, big thing is being able to get effective yards on first and second down, being able to put ourselves in second and manageable, third and manageable. That really limits the time that Garoppolo is going to have to sit back there in the pocket pocket and really limits what they're going to be able to do. So we know Trent Williams more often than not is going to win his battle against whatever edge rusher you throw at him. Mike McGlinchey, that's where a little bit more of my concern is at. If we can get good yards on first, second down, run the ball effectively, quick passes, and we know that's kind of Garoppolo's wheelhouse, I really do like our chances there. Moving on from that, also we mentioned this in the star matchups, being able to contain and wrap up those Denver Bronco running backs. Just like any offense in the NFL wants to get into good situations on second and third down, we need to stop Denver from being able to do that. How do we do that? Well, Denver's running game is really, really good. Not only run blocking, but their running back's very effective. Let's wrap them up. Got to get multiple guys there because both Williams and Gordon capable of breaking tackles when it's just a one-on-one matchup. So I really do think the Niners, if those front four can free up lanes for guys like Warner, Greenlaw, Alshire, and the like to really make plays, I like that a lot. Talanoa Hufanga is also going to be another key player to really help limit what the Denver Broncos can do in the running game. Also, let's keep Russell Wilson in the pocket. Really interesting stats so far here. Russell Wilson, less than 59% completion rate. Definitely an adjustment for him getting used to the Denver Broncos as opposed to where he was so comfortable in Seattle. But not only that, in 2 games, he only has 3 rushes. So we know, of course, over the years, Russell Wilson has done a lot of damage against the 49ers and many other teams running the football with his legs. If we can continue to limit that, if he doesn't really get chance to run the ball, keep him in the pocket, keep him in those third and long situations, let our edge rushers go up against them and do their thing against the Denver's offensive line. I like our chances there. Last but not least, here's what we really, really have to do. No special teams gaffes, all right? So we saw it against Seattle. We give up that, the field goal gets blocked. They take it back for a touchdown. Against a team like Seattle, that's really not going to hurt our chances for winning or not going to have a huge impact. Against a team like Denver, who are definitely a lot better, we cannot afford to have those kind of plays. If anything, we need to start making plays ourselves. We've moved on to a new special teams coordinator, and not that I think our special teams are necessarily any worse or better than before. I do think that it'd be nice for us to actually make some plays on the special teams. So overall, those are my keys for winning the game. I'm now going to give you my guys' score prediction, and then we'll wrap it up right there. And so with the eyes of the nation that will be watching the 49ers in Mile High Stadium against the Denver Broncos, I do, of course, have the 49ers winning this game. I think it's going to be a really good game. Should be a really fun game. It actually might be a little bit more lower scoring than what a lot of people are anticipating. You have 2 of the top 5 defenses going up against one another. So I'm going to say in this game, 49ers 21, Denver Broncos 17. I think it's going to be a fun game to watch. So I will be streaming the game live too. So kickoff of the game is around 5:20 p.m. Pacific time. I will be going live right at kickoff. Usually I like to go live a little bit earlier, but I'll be going live right at kickoff, and it's going to be a whole lot of fun. We had a lot of fun week 2 and also week 1 on the stream, so definitely come over there, guys. Check it out. Engage in the conversations. We'll keep it friendly, but a little trash talk is okay. But hopefully the Niners can come away with a win, go to 2-1 on the season, and how great would it be to crush the Seattle Seahawks and then to beat Russell Wilson and then hopefully get our revenge on the LA Rams Monday Night Football in week 4. It would be really, really, really good run of games for the 49ers if we're able to accomplish that. But thank you very much, guys, for watching. Do feel free to drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and you like what I do, and definitely drop your thoughts in the comments. So I'm going to leave it right there. But there's 2 things I'm going to say. The butt counts, and then I'm going to catch y'all on the flip side.